Could Israel's fears of an imminent attack coming from ISIS be justifiable? Well, some certainly think so, because Egypt apparently is scaling back its military presence in the Sinai Peninsula. They're redeploying their troops from Gaza and transferring them over to their western border with Libya. That, of course, is in an attempt to stop IS fighters from entering Egypt. Israel security officials warned that the reduced military presence in the northern Sinai Peninsula might actually lead terrorist groups to get a foothold and let them carry out attacks against Israel. Israel's army came out and said that they are, of course, ready for any scenario in which Sinai-based Islamists launch a widespread attack on both soldiers and the civilians. So, Jose, for Israel, the threat, of course, is serious. We saw just yesterday the IS branch operating in the Sinai Peninsula, right near Gaza. They are called Ansar Ba'it al-Maqdis. They announced on Twitter in direct threat to Israel that they will launch 150 rockets on Israel. That's scary, right?
That's
for any country.
That's a serious attack.
Right. But we're talking about a country that's often criticized for being, you know, this kind of big bad wolf in the region. Yeah. Preeminent attacks, preemptive attacks rather, on countries. A lot of people criticize them for killing civilians, all these things. But are their fears of constant attacks justifiable? Because we constantly hear things like this. And given its position in the world, surrounded by countries that don't like it, to say the least.
Well, any threat is it's a threat that needs to be looked into and taken seriously. Again, Israel, like you mentioned, has a very strong military, has very strong allies, including the U.S., that regardless of the situation of the U.S.-Israel relationship right now after the Netanyahu speech and that fallout between the diplomacies, I think that in case that ISIS thinks that it's a good idea to go head front to Israel with 150 rockets, I think the U.S. will have to intervene, will have to support the Israel retaliation. But at the same time, it is good to mention that Israel has conflicts with everybody in the region. Every border that you go, there's a conflict in between Israel and the neighbor. So I'll be scared if nobody in my neighborhood likes me.
Yeah, right? It's understandable. Speaking of being understandable, a unnamed Israeli security official, he had a pretty understanding outlook on this. This is what he had to say. He said that Egypt is operating according to its priorities, and at this point, sees the porous Libyan border as a more significant threat. This is a territory over 1,000 kilometers long, on the other side of which Islamic State operatives are running amok, murdering Egyptian citizens. So there you go. Egypt is looking out for their own safety and their own priority.
And the reality is that ISIS, as we see that there's some advancements from the Iraqi government and the Iraqi military to recoup Tikrit, they're looking at that battle and say, well, we might be losing here, but they are looking into these other parts of the local geography where they can actually thrive. So it's a very real possibility that when they see that they're losing within the Iraqi territories, they start, as we've seen, trying to get a foothold in other countries around. So it's not that far-fetched.
It's not. And I mean, this does mean a lot, because for a long time, Egypt and Israel have been working together, a lot of cooperation there with Egyptian forces stopping these tunnels that are going from Egypt into Gaza, right? They're making tunnels where they're not only getting people through, but weapons as well. Yeah. And these terrorist groups are trying to get their hands on those very weapons. So this means a lot. Without that, just knowing, whether they're there or not, just knowing that these borders
it's a line of defense.
Knowing that it's not there will probably encourage a lot more trafficking of both people, unfortunately, and weapons, putting in Israel, of course, in imminent danger. Let us know what you guys think. Do you guys agree? Please comment, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Lip TV.